They walked in laughing, full of energy, the way people do when they think the night is about them. And for years, it always was. Every single June on my birthday, my family took over a corner table at Harbor and Vine, our town's favorite spot, to celebrate anything but me. I didn't walk in with them. I stood at the top of the stairs, hands steady on the railing, watching the way my mother adjusted her earrings, how my sister fluffed her hair, how my brother checked his reflection in the window. They were beautiful. They were loud, and for years they were blind to me. Before I tell you what I did, before I tell you how I bought the restaurant they worshipped, do me a favor. Smash that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I'm Maya, and tonight was the night my family learned that forgetting has consequences. The hostess smiled at them. Reservation for Collins, party of 8. My mother beamed. Of course, she said, sweeping in as if the air belonged to her. My father kept his hand at her back. My sister, Ava, lifted her phone for a quick story. Family dinner, she sang into the camera. Big night. I could hear the clink of glasses from the bar. I could smell rosemary and butter from the kitchen. Every sound mattered. Every detail was a wire in a trap I set for the one night of the year that was supposed to be mine, but somehow never was. You know how people say, they just forgot? For a long time, I let those words soften the sting. Maybe they were busy, maybe they mixed up dates. Maybe my birthday was too close to Father's Day, to finals week, to someone else's big news. But after a while, the soft excuses hardened into something ugly. Because they never forgot dinner. They never forgot that table. They never forgot to dress up, to order dessert, to make a toast, just not for me. Table 12, the hostess said, leading them past the wall of framed photos. Table 12, tucked under a chandelier facing the water. June 12, my day, their favorite table. The guitarist in the corner played a slow, warm melody. The kitchen door swung open and shut, a silver flash, a heartbeat. I checked my watch. 7:08 p.m. right on schedule. Everything was set. The menus, the flowers, the little card in the napkin ring they'd find when they sat down, the speeches they didn't know they were about to give. My best friend Naomi's text buzzed my phone. Deep breath, you got this. I looked down at them from the landing. I watched my mother laugh at a joke my brother made. I watched my father signal for water with lemon, just how he liked it. I watched my sister angle her face toward the light, hungry for the perfect shot. And for one second, one tiny second, I felt that old ache rise in my chest, the ache that begged them to see me, to notice me, to remember me, but the ache didn't own me anymore, not tonight. I stepped off the last stair and walked toward them, not as the girl nobody noticed, but as the woman who owned the room. Good evening, I said, warmth in my voice. Welcome to Harbor and Vine. My mother looked up at me, not recognizing me yet. Thank you, she said, brisk and sweet. We're celebrating, we need champagne. Oh, I said, meeting her eyes, I know. I laid the wine list between them. Ava rifled through her bag without looking. My father straightened his napkin, and then my brother, Dylan, glanced up and froze. Maya, he said, brow furrowed, what are you doing here? I smiled. Working. I didn't say the rest. Not yet, the room wasn't ready for it, but I was. Because tonight, I didn't bring a cake to their table. I brought the truth. And if they thought they could stand up and walk away from it the way they'd walked away from me, they were about to learn how wrong they were. But to understand why I set this table the way I did, you have to understand what it feels like to be erased in plain sight. Let me take you back. Let me take you to the first time the candles flickered for everyone in my family, everyone but me. When I was 7, I made a crown from yellow construction paper and glue. I wrote my name big and careful across the front, Maya, and pressed small plastic gems into the wet glue until my fingers stuck together. I waited in the kitchen with my crown and my paper streamers and a box of cupcake mix I had begged for, because my mother said we'd do something small after she got back from errands. She came home late, bags on her wrists, phone at her ear. We ran into Ava's coach, she said, slipping past me to drop the groceries on the counter. Big news, she made starter. She kissed the top of my head. You can help me wash the romaine. Can we make cupcakes? I asked, holding the box like a promise. Maybe tomorrow, she said, the way people say later when they mean no. I told myself it was okay. I told myself it didn't mean anything. I was 7. I built a castle out of empty cereal boxes. I put my crown on anyway and ate a cupcake on the back steps while the sun sank low and the yard smelled like cut grass in summer. At 12, I saved up for a phone case with glitter stars because I was finally allowed to go to the movies with friends. We'll do a family dinner after, my mother promised, scribbling something in her planner. But that night, my sister spilled a bottle of nail polish on the white rug and everything turned into a cleanup emergency. We'll make it up next weekend, my father said, patting my shoulder. We'll do something big. That weekend slid into the next, and then it slid out of sight. At 16, I reminded them a month in advance. Don't worry, my mother said, tapping at her laptop. I've got it on the calendar. I pictured candles, a cake, maybe a silly banner. Instead, my parents organized a congratulations Ava. Dinner at Harbor and Vine because my sister's scholarship letter had come in the mail. We didn't realize, my mother lied through a tight smile when she saw the hurt on my face. We thought you didn't care about birthdays. You've always been so low maintenance. Low maintenance. I learned to fold myself small and quiet, like a napkin on the side of someone else's plate. At 21, when most people pop something bubbly and go out dancing, I sat on the floor of my tiny apartment with a cupcake from the grocery store, a candle flickering in the dark. I didn't tell anyone. It felt too embarrassing to be the only person planning my day. I swallowed that embarrassment like medicine and told myself, this is fine. I like quiet. But silence can be a heavy thing. It can sit in your chest like a stone. Every year, my family celebrated life. They celebrated promotions. They celebrated report cards. They celebrated new jobs, new cars, new hobbies. They celebrated every little step anyone took, except mine. And after a while, it stopped feeling like an accident. It wasn't just the missing cakes. It was the captions on social media. Family night, with my face cropped out. It was the text messages. Hey, can you pick up the balloons for Dylan's party? It was the expectation that I would always be available to help, to bake, to plan, to show up, just not for me. If I said something, it backfired. One year I tried. You know my birthday is next week, right? My mother put a hand to her chest. Oh my goodness, Maya, of course. We'll do your favorite Italian. My sister leaned in. But next week is my audition. Mom, we should do a pre-audition dinner. That would be so helpful. Everyone nodded. Everyone agreed. They picked a date. They picked a restaurant. And by the time my birthday came around, everyone was tired. Let's just stay in, my father said, keys on the hook. We'll watch a movie. They fell asleep halfway through. There is a special kind of ache that comes from being told you are so easy that you can be ignored. I became the helper, the planner, the driver. I learned how people liked their coffee, how to stop a stain, how to be useful. And somewhere inside all that usefulness, I went missing. But the year before I bought Harbor and Vine, something shifted. Not because my family changed, but because I finally saw what was in front of me. It was my birthday again. We were at that same round table, under that same chandelier, with the same view of the water winking in the dark. I showed up in a soft green dress and told myself, maybe this time they'll remember. Ava stood and tapped her glass. The room quieted. I have news, she said, eyes glowing. We're engaged. Everyone cheered. People at nearby tables clapped. My mother dabbed at happy tears. My father said, a toast. Glasses were passed. Champagne appeared. Strangers smiled at us as if joy was spilling out of our table and flooding the room. Let's make a wish, my sister giggled, and blew out the candle on the creme brulee the waiter placed in front of her. I watched the smoke curl up and disappear. I felt the prick of tears and swallowed them so hard it hurt. I tried to speak. Hey, today is actually. My mother waved a hand. Of course we'll celebrate you too, sweetheart. Another day. This is Ava's moment. Another day, another day, another day. When the bill came, the leather folder slid across the table to me, as if pulled by a string. You're the responsible one, my father joked, and the others laughed. I put my card down and paid for the night my family turned my birthday into my sister's engagement party. The waiter, kind eyes, met my gaze when he handed the receipt back. "Happy birthday," he whispered, so quiet only I could hear. That night I sat on the edge of my bathtub and stared at myself in the mirror. I looked older than my years, not tired exactly, just worn from being unseen. I took a breath and said it out loud to the one person I could count on to listen, myself. Never again. And I meant it. I didn't know how yet. I didn't know what it would look like, but a promise bloomed in me like a sunrise. Next year will be different. Next year, no one will forget. I didn't know that Harbor and Vine was about to go up for sale. I didn't know I was going to meet the woman who would change everything. I didn't know that my revenge would be quiet, elegant, and absolutely unforgettable. All I knew was that I was done being low maintenance. I had been trained to go small, but it turns out I remembered how to take up space. People say time is medicine. Sometimes it is. Other times it just stretches the ache into something long and thin, like a thread that never snaps. After the engagement dinner that stole my birthday, I gave myself a week to feel it. I let myself cry in the shower. I let myself be angry in the car with the music turned up too loud. I let myself remember the 7-year-old with the paper crown. And then I stopped waiting for them to change. I threw myself into work. I stocked shelves in the morning at the little bookstore on the corner. I managed the front desk at a studio in the afternoon. I saved most of what I earned because saving felt like control. It felt like a plan. When I had extra, I took myself to Harbor and Vine early, before the dinner rush, and sat at the bar with a notebook and a tea. The restaurant had always been a part of our family story. My parents brought us there for big nights. The hostesses knew my mother's voice on the phone. The servers knew my father's preferred table. The light over table 12 was soft and gold, and the river smelled like salt and sage when the windows were open. It was there, one quiet afternoon, that I met Luz. "Writing a book?" she asked me, setting down a teacup with a lemon slice floating like a small moon. "Just writing," I said with a smile, tapping my pen against the paper. She was in her 60s, hair clipped back, eyes bright. She carried herself like a person who had spent a lifetime on her feet and still had 1,000 miles left in her. "I'm Luz," she said. "I own this place." "Oh," I said, surprised. "It's beautiful." She looked around the room with a small, proud smile. "It is," she agreed. "This place has fed a lot of memories." Then she lowered her voice. "And it's time for me to go create some of my own." "You're selling?" I asked, the words landing between us like a pebble in a still pond. "Soon," she said. "I promised myself one more summer and then I'm ready." I didn't tell her about my family. I didn't tell her how this room had felt like a stage that never let me speak. I asked questions instead. How did she start? What did it take to run a place like this? What did she love about it? What kept her up at night? We talked every week after that. She told me stories about the early days when there were only 4 tables and a borrowed oven. She told me about the dance of service, the way a room has a heartbeat if you listen closely. She told me about giving people nights they would never forget. Sometimes she asked about me. "You're always here," she said, "but I never see you with anyone." I laughed it off. "I come with a crowd when I have to," I said. "They're loud." "Do they see you?" she asked, too sharp for how soft her voice was. I looked down at my tea. "Sometimes." She didn't push, she just tapped the table. "When you're ready, invite yourself," she said. "To your own life, to your own table." I started to see the shape of my revenge then, but it wasn't the ugly kind I used to imagine at midnight when anger felt like fire. It wasn't about screaming or breaking anything. It was about names on deeds. It was about menus I could rewrite. It was about choosing myself loudly in the room where I learned to be quiet. But while that plan grew roots, the old pattern didn't stop. The spring after the engagement dinner, my sister texted, "Thinking of doing my bridal shower at Harbor and Vine. You're the good planner, can you handle it?" She included a list of colors, flowers, favors, and a link to a very expensive cake. I typed out 3 different answers. "Are you serious?" turned into "sure." Then sure turned into I'll help. I hit send and felt ashamed of myself. But then I heard Luz in my head, when you're ready, invite yourself. It wasn't time yet, but it was coming. The shower was beautiful. It was always beautiful when I planned it. The balloon arch, the white peonies, the playlist, the games. People laughed and cried and hugged and thanked me as if I just donated a kidney. My mother took my hand and squeezed it hard. I don't know what we'd do without you, she said. I don't know either, I said and meant it. The next day I got lunch with Naomi at a diner, and she hit her straw against the glass like a drum. You're a genius, she said, but I'm so tired of watching them eat what you cook and never save you a plate. We sat in silence for a bit, the way you only can with someone who shares your quiet. Then I said, what if I own the kitchen? Naomi looked up, eyes bright. Say more. I told her about Luz. I told her about selling. I told her I didn't know how to do it, only that the words felt right in my mouth. I want to buy Harbor and Vine. Then do it, she said. We'll figure it out. It wasn't simple. It never is, but it was clear. I started small. I asked questions. I asked Luz what she would want from the next person who held the keys. Respect, she said. For the staff, for the guests, for the story of the place. I asked a banker at the branch down the street what it would take to get a loan. A plan, he said. Cash flow, projections, show me you've thought it through. I Googled until my eyes hurt. I made lists. I made a spreadsheet I barely understood, and then I made a simpler one I could love. I had savings. I had good credit because being the responsible one had taught me how to keep the numbers in order. I didn't tell my family a word. And then, one evening after closing, Luz handed me a set of keys and said, walk the place. Try on the weight of it. It was quiet. The chairs were up on tables. The dishwasher hummed in the back like a faraway train. I moved through the room slowly, touching the backs of chairs, the edge of the bar, the frame of the window that looked out over the water. I stopped at table 12. I put my hand flat on the wood and closed my eyes. And for the first time, that table felt like it belonged to me, not them. In the weeks that followed, I got bold. I submitted an offer. It was fair. It was serious. It was mine. I cried on the floor the day it was accepted, the keys heavy in my hands. Then I stood up and cleaned my face and made a list so long it scared me. Permits, staff meetings, supplier calls, a deep clean, a soft reopen. We didn't close the restaurant. We didn't need to. The handover was smooth because Luz had prepared it to be. I kept the name. I kept the menu with small, smart tweaks. I kept what mattered and let the rest go. And then I chose a date. June 12. I didn't text my family to say, guess what? I didn't invite them to celebrate me, the way I always had before, with hope humming in my throat. Instead, I did something they had always done. I set the stage and waited for them to walk onto it. 2 months before my birthday, my mother texted, family dinner in June. Let's keep the tradition. How's the 12th? Harbor and Vine, of course. I typed slowly. Sounds good. Perfect, she replied, and added a sparkling heart. There it was, the ache, the familiar sting. But this time the ache felt like fuel. This time the sting felt like a match. I worked with my team. I told them, we're going to host a private event on June 12. My family has a reservation at table 12. I'm going to give them service like they've never seen. I'm going to give them a night they will not forget. I printed special menus for that one night only. The first page looked normal until you read the titles. Candle in June. The crown I made myself. The back steps at sunset. It was subtle enough to pass as poetry. It was specific enough to make my sister pause, to make my mother frown, to make my father shift in his seat. We created place cards with their names, tucked into the napkins with a simple card beneath. You are invited to notice. When I told Naomi the plan, she laughed and covered her mouth. Girl, you're going to make history. I didn't want to destroy them. I wanted to open their eyes. But I also wanted them to feel what it felt like to sit in a room and watch something beautiful happen around you and realize you weren't the star. Not this time. And that brings us back to the moment under the chandelier, the music soft and warm, the menus like small secrets, the water shining beyond the window. My family at their favorite table on my birthday. They didn't know what was coming. They didn't know I had printed the receipts from last year and tucked them under my notes. They didn't know the staff had been briefed and the room was ready to turn on a single word. They didn't know that when my sister lifted her glass to make it about her, I had a plan to turn the night around without raising my voice. So I stood beside them, smiled my calm smile, and said, "Welcome." I poured the first glasses myself. I watched the bubbles rise. And then I placed the menu in front of my mother, and she read the first title and went still. Next, we step into the betrayal behind their forgetfulness, the reveal that broke the last piece of my old patience, and the exact moment I decided to stop asking to be seen and make it impossible not to see me. My mother read the first menu title, Candle in June, and her fingers paused on the page, only for a second. She smoothed the paper with her palm like she could iron out the meaning. "These names," she said lightly, lips still, "very poetic." Ava flipped her menu. "Oh my gosh, look at this one," she said. "The crown I made myself, it's giving fairy tale." Dylan didn't say anything yet. He caught my eye and looked away, then looked back, like he was trying to read me and the room at the same time. I leaned into the table just enough to be warm. "We're running a tasting menu tonight," I said. "Each course has a small story. I thought you might enjoy something special." "Lovely," my father said, folding his napkin with the care he reserved for new things. "We'll trust the chef." Trust, that word. It rang inside my chest like a bell. "Before we begin," I said, laying down coasters with the restaurant's crest, "our house has a little tradition on nights like this. We ask a simple question." My mother's smile looked fragile. "What kind of question?" I kept my voice easy. "Who are we celebrating?" Ava raised her hand a little half-joking. "Me," she laughed. "I'm kidding, it's just a family dinner." "Right," my father said, looking at me. "No special occasion." Dylan glanced at me again, then down at the card tucked beneath his napkin. He slid it out. 4 words centered. "You are invited to notice." He swallowed. "Cool," he said softly. "Weirdly cool." I lifted my chin and nodded to the server at the bar. The guitarist in the corner shifted to a gentle, restless rhythm. The kitchen door swung open. The dance began. Plate 1, back steps at sunset. A tiny square of cornbread with a brush of honey. A sliver of stone fruit, warm and soft. A whisper of smoke from the grill. Summer held in careful hands. "It's sweet," my mother said. She closed her eyes almost against her will. "Like the first week of June." "That's the idea," I said. The chef grew up making cornbread boxes in a kitchen that smelled like cut grass. There were paper crowns involved, a lot of glue. Ava laughed. "Cute." She tilted her phone to snap a photo. "Say back steps," she whispered to the camera, half mocking, half charmed. "Family night." I stepped back as the plates were cleared. My heart beat steady, not slow, not fast, steady, like I'd trained it to. Because what I had planned for them tonight didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of a tiny, brutal discovery that had cracked something I'd been willing to pretend was whole. The discovery started with paper, not a text, not a scream, a note. It was 2 months earlier, the afternoon after Ava's bridal shower. The flowers were still perfect. The floor smelled like lemons. Luz and I had stayed late to make sure the last ribbon got thrown out and the last empty glass got washed. I found my mother's planner under table 12. It was heavy, pale blue, the year embossed in gold. I almost called out right away, "Mom, you forgot your..." But I stopped. She had already left, and for reasons I couldn't name yet, I opened it. June, I whispered the word like a password. On the 12th, in my mother's careful handwriting, H&V family dinner, Ava's moment prep. Below that, no song, no candle. Am not a fan. My chest went cold, then hot, then cold again, because a thing I had suspected turned into a thing I could touch. No song, no candle, am not a fan. On the 11th, squeezed into the margin, confirm with host, comp dessert if possible, A loves creme brulee. On the 13th, send Maya to pick up Tuck's fittings. The page looked like a plan, not a mistake, not a harmless oversight, a plan, a map for how to make me small. I didn't trust myself to keep reading, but I did. I turned back to the year before, then the year before that. Every June was the same pattern in soft, careful ink. Use the night. Make it about someone else. Write the script. Don't say the B word. The B word. Birthday, my birthday. I sat with that planner open, alone in the restaurant that would soon be mine in a way none of them could imagine. And then my phone buzzed. It was Dylan. He never called me out of the blue. He was a texter. A "you up" brother at 11 p.m. when he needed a ride. But now my phone lit up with his name and the words, "I think you should see this. Sorry." Attached was a screenshot of the family group, chat I had left months earlier because it always turned into a calendar where I didn't exist. The chat I had muted, then exited, because seeing plans happen without me did something ugly to my courage. The screenshot was from my mother. "Let's keep next week simple. No awkwardness. Maya's not into attention, we all know that. Please no singing. Don't bring anything obvious, balloons, etc. I've already told the restaurant." Ava had responded with a row of sparkle emojis. "Thank you. Focus should be the engagement countdown anyway." Then my father agreed. No need to make her uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. I put my hand to my mouth and pressed hard. My own words rose up and tried to defend them. "You've said you don't like big crowds. You've said you hate surprises. You've said singing feels cheesy. That's true. I don't like when people choose for me. I don't like performative, casual kind. But that wasn't what this was. This was choice taken out of my hands and handed to people who didn't want me to have moments at all." I stared for a long time. Then I typed to Dylan, "Thanks." He replied fast, "Should have done it earlier. Mom asked me not to stir. I'm sorry, I hate it." My throat tightened. "You don't have to be on my side," I wrote. "You just have to see." "I do," he wrote back. "I see." That would have been enough. The planner and the screenshot, but it wasn't the end. A week later, a server handed me a folded receipt he had kept under the host stand. "We thought you might want this," he said. "From last year." On the top, the date, June 12. On the bottom line, the signature, mine. But that wasn't the part that got me. It was the note a different server, sweet eyes, steady hands, had scribbled in pen on the back, almost too light to read. "Happy birthday, Maya. If no one says it, I will." I didn't know why, but I cried like a storm had finally rolled through the dry season and the ground could breathe again. Not because of the sadness, because someone saw it and said, out loud, "I see what's happening here." Betrayal is not always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet room where everyone agrees to pretend you're fine because it's easier for them that way. So back in the dining room, present tense, with the music and the linen and the way my mother's jaw tightened at the edges, I carried those pages and that receipt in my pocket like amulets. Plate 2, the crown I made myself. A crisp little pastry, delicate and golden, shaped like a small crown. A brush of lemon curd inside. A thin ribbon of paper folded under the plate with my name hand-lettered on it. Maya. My mother picked up the ribbon and went very still. "Is this part of the story?" she asked. Her voice was airy and sharp at the same time. "It is," I said. "There was a child once who waited in a kitchen for someone to come home. She made a crown and wore it anyway." I wasn't looking at them then. I was looking just past them, at the place on the wall where the light fell in a soft diamond. The room hummed. I could feel their thoughts moving like shadows. My father cleared his throat. "Who wrote these stories?" "Our house did," I said. "Our house remembers more than we think." Ava snorted. "Okay, haunted house," she whispered to her phone, but her eyes had softened. I saw the 7-year-old she used to be flicker across her face and then disappear. Plate 3, the responsible one. A bite of savory tart with caramelized onion and a thin, sharp cheese. A small, perfectly folded paper beside it, the shape of a receipt. My father picked it up and turned it over, his eyebrows lowered, then lifted. "Is this ours?" "It's a copy," I said, "for your records." He looked at me, something warily respectful passing through his gaze. as if he suddenly realized he was dealing with a person who knew exactly what she was doing. My mother set her fork down with a little click. "Maya, what is this? What is happening right now?" I glanced toward the bar. Naomi, across the room in a simple black dress, lifted her glass like a secret signal. "You're doing it. Keep going." The guitarist shifted to a melody I recognized but couldn't place right away, something I used to sing when I was fearless and didn't know better. The sound of my own voice as a kid, inside another person's hands. People at other tables were not starring. That was important. I hadn't wanted a scene. I had told my staff, "This is a private night. We are not shamming. We are reflecting. We are giving them a mirror and a chance." And now we were at the place on the path, where the map turns from trail to truth. I placed a hand on the back of my mother's chair. "There's more than food tonight," I said. "There's a choice." "What choice?" she asked. She sounded tired, not old, just tired in the way people get when their version of the story is about to be interrupted. "Whether to keep pretending you forgot," I said, simple and direct, the way Luz had taught me, "or to admit you decided I didn't need a day." My sister blew out a breath. "Here we go." "Yes," I said and surprised myself with a smile. "Here we go." Behind the bar, the house lights softened by half. Not a spotlight, just a gentle shift that made this table feel like a smaller island in a room we all knew well. I touched the pocket of my jacket and felt the edges of the planner page, the weight of the receipts, the whisper of the note. The proof I hadn't wanted to need. "I'm not going to yell," I said. "I'm not going to make a scene, but I am going to finish something that started when I was 7 and lasted far too long." My father leaned back. He didn't fight me. He didn't leave. He waited. And that was something. "Later," I said softly, "I'll show you what I found. We'll look at it together if you can stomach it. But first, eat, listen, remember." My mother stared at me, eyes glossy. "We didn't mean to hurt you," she said, "because that's what people say when they chose the easy thing and now the bill has arrived." "I know," I said, "but you did." The server cleared the third plate. The room breathed. The water beyond the glass caught the last light of the day and held it like a promise. "Plate 4, the girl who paid." A little espresso cup, rich and bright. A dark square of chocolate. A silver coin candy wrapped in foil beside it. "Bit on the nose," Ava muttered, but the edges of her mouth twitched like the truth was making itself comfortable in a place she had kept closed. We lifted our cups, we sipped. The bitterness was clean. The sweetness wasn't cloying, it was honest. Betrayal is heavy until you set it down in front of the people who gave it to you. Then it becomes what it always was, the weight they should have been carrying too. I looked at Dylan. He was the only one who could meet my eyes without flinching. He gave me a small nod, a brother's promise. "I see, I'm here." I nodded back, a sister's answer. "Good, stay." People love a shocking twist, a slammed door, a shouted truth. I did not want that kind of night. I wanted a night where the rug stayed where it belonged and people learned to stand on it without tripping. So I planned for months. I planned like the good girl they trained me to be. I planned with lists and timelines and budgets and backup plans and small, kind surprises that doubled as quiet, undeniable truths. The first decision I made was about tone. Not cruel, not chaotic, calm, unmistakable, and precise. Luz helped with that. She didn't tell me what to do. She told me what questions to ask. "What do you want them to feel?" she asked me in the office. The first week I had the keys, a stack of invoices on my lap and the lease in a folder on the desk. "Seen," I said, and ashamed, I almost added, but I didn't. "Seen," I repeated, and responsible and hopeful I want a way forward. "Then design for that," she said. "Design for the after, not just the night." So I wrote out the goals on a sheet of paper and taped it inside the cabinet with the stemware, so I had to look at it every time I reached for something delicate. Show them what they've done without tearing them down beyond repair. Claim my day without throwing anyone else off a cliff. Set boundaries that stand tomorrow morning and next June. Make it beautiful, make it unforgettable, make it fair. I told Naomi. We sat at my kitchen table with 2 mugs of tea and a bag of gummy bears between us, and she called it what it was. "This is a love letter and a line in the sand," she said. "Oof, it's going to be so good." We made columns on a big piece of paper like we were planning a wedding. But it wasn't a wedding. It was the opposite. It was a divorce from a role I didn't audition for. Seating plan, table 12, yes, but with place cards and a center seat for me. Not on the edge, not the extra chair that gets pulled up last minute. Center, present. Menu, tasting. Each course a memory with a name that sounded pretty if you weren't looking and sounded like a confession if you were. Staff briefing, professional, soft uniforms, no performative clapping, nothing that could be dismissed as corny. Quiet excellence. Sound, guitar, not speakers. Live, human, warm, songs that belonged to the room. And one I had saved for the moment the room turned. Service cues, questions that gently invited them to say out loud what they had claimed in private. Who are we celebrating? Any special requests from the guest of honor? Questions that made them notice the absence of my name when they tried to answer without it. The reveal, not a blow-up, not a scream. A folder placed inside the leather bill holder at just the right minute. Planner photocopy, highlighted. Group chat printout, names blacked out except for the words that mattered. Receipts with my signature. And the note from the server who saw me when no one else did. The decision, a moment where I offered them a choice, not to accept me as the main character of their lives. That's not their job. But to accept that I would be the main character of mine. A choice to stay and celebrate me or to leave and sit with what that meant. The boundaries, cards under each plate with a letter addressed to each of them, written in my voice, calm and clear. Here is what I will not do anymore. Here is what I expect. Here is how we can move forward. The after, a new tradition. A standing reservation for the second week of June at Harbor and Vine for forgotten birthdays. An open invite to anyone who had been erased on their own day to come and be honored with quiet joy. A way to turn my ache into other people's relief. My staff didn't roll their eyes when I explained. They leaned in. Restaurants are full of people who have been unseen at home and who learned to be magicians in the dim light. They understood what we were doing like it was a language we all already spoke. We had practice nights. We tested the menu. We tuned the songs. We tried the light dimmer to see how far we could go without anyone outside our table noticing a thing. I called the bank and secured a line of credit I didn't love but could live with. I stacked exactly enough money in exactly the right places to make that night not just a statement, but a smooth, excellent service for a full room. Because the plan wasn't to close the restaurant and turn it into a theater for one family's drama. The plan was to hold a full house and still hold my moment. I wrote the letters last. I wrote them at midnight when the city felt like an ally and not a judge. I wrote the first draft too angry, and then I put it in a drawer and let it cool. I wrote the second draft too soft, and then I added bone. Mom. Here, what I needed when I was 7 and again at 16 and again last year when you turned my day into a toast for someone else. I needed you to notice. I needed you to say, tonight is Maya's. Not because I'm fragile. Not because I'm your favorite, but because it teaches a child something important when you show her that her joy matters. Here, what I need now, no more using my day to serve someone else's story, no more forgetting. No more asking staff to skip the song for my comfort when you never asked me what would make me comfortable. This isn't about cake, it's about respect. You don't have to love birthdays to love me on mine. Dad, you always say you trust me. Trust me now when I say this hurt me. Trust me when I say jokes about me paying for family night stopped being jokes a long time ago. Hear how you can show up next. If you see the bill slide toward me, pick it up. If you hear someone shift the spotlight, shift it back. You don't have to be loud. Just be the person who says, tonight is Maya's. Ava, you shine bright. I don't want to dim you. I just wanted room for my candle too. I'm not your planner, I'm your sister. If you love me, and I know you do, learn to share the space, not steer it. If you want help, ask, not on my day. Dylan, thanks for sending the truth. You're not a kid anymore either. The price of seeing is saying something. I want you on my side, not as a soldier, but as a brother who knows when a joke stops being a joke. I sealed the letters and slid them under the napkins the afternoon of the dinner. My hands didn't shake. My breath stayed even. I picked the outfit carefully. Not loud, not apologetic. A deep green dress like the one 16-year-old me wore when she hoped maybe this time, and a blazer that said, "I run this place and I run my life." I put on a tiny gold crown pin I had ordered from a small shop online, in honor of a paper crown that had been thrown away but never forgot. And I sent Naomi a text, "We're live." She sent back a crown emoji. Then, do your thing. In the dining room, the tasting continued. Plate 5, the vanishing act. A clear glass bowl with a thin mist rolling over a single bite-sized scoop that melted on your tongue and disappeared, leaving behind a quiet hint of rosemary and citrus. Pretty, elegant, gone. Weird, my sister said, laughing. Kind of amazing. It's like nothing and something at the same time. Like the way people remember some nights, I said, not accusing, just nomming what was on the plate. The server refilled water. Another server folded a napkin that had slipped into a lap like the night wanted to be neat. The guitarist moved from one song to the next with the easy grace of a person who knows how to hold his place while the room shifts around him. The questions came, as planned, gentle and regular. "Any special announcement tonight?" a server asked with a practiced smile, as if she didn't already know the answer. My mother took a breath. I could see the fork in the path rise in her. The old impulse, claim the space, make the plan, and the new path we were paving, brick by careful brick. "Just family," she said finally, small. "Just family," the server echoed. "Noted." We moved on. Plate 6, the cry in the ride home. A small glass of sparkling water with a single pink tear of syrup asleep at the bottom. A stir brought it to life and turned it into something else. A sweet tart that tasted like being brave alone and then a little less alone. My father swallowed. He had always hated talking about feelings. He preferred tasks, lists, things he could fix with a call or a credit card, but tasks build systems, and this system had shut me out. He leaned toward me. "Maya," he said quietly, are you trying to tell us?" "Yes," I said. He nodded once, like a man who had decided to stay and take what was coming. We reached the middle of the tasting, the place where a dinner can wobble if you don't steady it, the place where old habits could climb the wall and try to take back the room. Ava raised her glass. "A toast," she said. "To." "Hold on," I said, and I smiled so gently even the knife on the table wanted to set itself down. "Let me earn the first one tonight." She flinched with the surprise and then sat back. She wasn't used to me stepping in, stepping up. She wasn't used to me taking the mic and keeping it. I stood with my glass in my hand and felt the weight of the room tilt toward me. "Thank you for coming," I said to my family. "Thank you for dressing up and sitting at the table where we have always sat and pretending this is like all the other nights. It's not." A couple at a nearby table glanced over, just one soft look, and then back to their own plates. The guitarist kept playing. The servers kept moving. The light kept doing that soft gold thing it did when the sun met the water and made a friend. "I am the owner of Harbor and Vine," I said, not loud, not whispered, just clear. My mother's neck turned slowly. "Excuse me." "I bought it," I said. "I own the room you have used for years to ignore me. That ends tonight." Ava set her glass down. It made a tiny heavy sound. "You, what?" "Congratulations," my father said, and for a second he looked honestly proud, like he had seen me build something true and it had landed where people could see it. "How on earth?" "The same way we do anything," I said. "I worked, I asked for help, I was careful. Luz trusted me." "Luz?" my mother asked, her voice thin. "The woman who built this place and decided it was time to hand it to someone who would treat it well," I said. "She believed I would." My mother blinked. "We always said you were the responsible one." "That's going to mean something different now," I said. It's not code for the one who carries everything while we celebrate. Silence, but not the bad kind. The kind that says, we heard you. Keep going. I placed the leather folder gently on the table, where the bill usually went. My father reached for it by muscle memory, and then stopped when he realized I wasn't sliding it to him. Open it, I said. He did. Inside, a photocopy of my mother's planner page, June 12, highlighted lines. No song, no candle. Not a fan. The text bubble printout with names cropped, the words enough. Let's keep next week simple. Maya's not into attention. Please no singing. I've already told the restaurant. The receipt with my signature from last year's engagement dinner that had been my birthday. And the note. Happy birthday, Maya. If no one says it, I will. My father inhaled through his nose, a long, rough sound. He closed his eyes. He opened them again. I did not know, he said, and then he corrected himself. I did know, I just didn't look. Ava's face flushed, pink first, then pale. Mom, she said, like she needed a lifeline, and the person who threw them was suddenly the one who had tied the knot. My mother's hand hovered above the folder like she wanted to close it and erase it. Then, slowly, she put her hand in her lap. A small surrender, but a real one. I told the hostess, she said, tears catching light at the edges, because I didn't want you to be uncomfortable. You've always hated attention. I hate being erased, I said. There's a difference. My voice didn't shake. It surprised me, the way calm can feel like a new muscle that suddenly remembers what it's for. There's a story you tell about me, I said, looking at my mother. That when I was a kid, someone sang happy birthday and I cried, and you decided birthdays made me upset. Do you remember that? She nodded, small, relieved to have something that sounded like evidence. I cried, I said, because nobody came to the first party. You told me we'd have cake after errands, and errands turned into dinner, and dinner turned into next week, and next week never came. When the song finally showed up, 5 days late, I cried because I was so happy someone was singing at all. That story was not about having attention. It was about being starved and then fed. They are not the same thing. My mother rubbed a napkin between her fingers, working the linen like clay. She looked down. I didn't put it together, she whispered. I was juggling a lot. I know, I said, and so was I, you just didn't see it. Dylan spoke then, voice low. Mom, I sent her the messages. It wasn't fair. I told you not to, she said, a crack of old anger rising, and then she swallowed it. I was wrong. Ava lifted the folder with a gentle, careful hand and looked at the receipt. She flipped it over and saw the note. Her lip trembled. Someone else said happy birthday to my sister, she whispered, because we didn't. She set the folder down like it was hot. She looked at me. I'm sorry, she said, too quick. Stay with it, I said. Don't fast forward, we have time. She nodded, eyes glassy, the way a grown-up looks when the child version of them is trying to crawl out and finally get a word in. I took a breath. Here, how tonight will go from here, I said. You can choose to stay and celebrate me, not as a payback, not as a performance, as an answer to a question you've been dodging for years, or you can leave and we will try again another day when you are ready to take responsibility for what you've done. Either way, I will eat my cake. No, my father said, we're not leaving. My mother looked at him, shocked and then grateful and then lost. I don't know how to fix this, she said. You don't get to fix it tonight, I said. You get to hear me. She nodded. It looked like it hurt. Ava reached for her water. She drank. She put the glass down like she was setting a boundary with gravity. Okay, she said softly. What do we do? You sit, I said. You listen. And when the cake comes, if you want to, you sing. My mother winced. Ask me, I said. Don't assume. She swallowed. Do you want us to sing? Yes, I said simply, like a grown woman who knows what she likes and is not ashamed of sounding like a child in the best way. I do. The guitarist changed keys, easy and smooth. The servers reset silverware for the final course. We weren't at the end yet, but we had crossed the point of no return. We were no longer pretending this was a normal night. It was mine. We saved the cake for last. Not because that's what you're supposed to do, because I wanted time to settle the air in the room, to let new rules take root. The next course after the reveal was simple. A clean dish with ripe berries and fresh cream, nothing to decode, nothing to untangle, a pause, a kindness in the middle of the storm. We ate quietly. And then another plate with a bite of something salty and bright that made everyone lift their eyes and look at someone else without meaning to. Food can do that. It can make strangers look like friends and families look like teams. It can heal small things in the time it takes to set down a fork. Dylan leaned toward me. I kept thinking next year I'll say something, he whispered. I kept thinking a better moment would come. It never does it? Nope, I said. Moments don't walk themselves to the door. We have to go out and get them. He nodded like a kid again and like a man at the same time. I'm sorry, he said. I am so. Don't live here, I said. Apologize and then move forward. That's the deal. Deal, he said. My father wiped his glasses with a tiny cloth he kept in his pocket like it was a faith ritual. He cleared his throat. He didn't try to toast. He didn't try to lead. He sat with his mistakes and let them sit next to him without trying to push them off the bench. My mother stared at the water and then at the folder and then at me. Her face worked. The math of it all. The years. The choices. The story she told herself about being generous and wise when she had been something else. Something afraid, something controlling, something distracted, something human. She looked up. May I say something? She asked. You can, I said, and then you can show me. She nodded like she expected that condition and was grateful for it. I made rules in our house, she said, keeping her voice level even when her heart was. Some of them kept things neat and some of them kept things small. I called it kindness when really it was convenience. I called it knowing my children when really it was deciding who you were so I wouldn't have to listen. I'm sorry. I watched her face while she spoke. I listened to her words and the empty spaces around them. I measured her voice against the little blue squares in her planner and the way she had always shook her head like, not tonight, later. I'm listening, I said. Keep going. I made your day a place to set down everyone else's bags, she said, the metaphor not elegant but true. I did that. I told myself you didn't mind. That's the part I can't stop turning over. I told myself a story where you were easy because I needed that to be true so I could keep moving. And now, I asked. And now, she said, I see that I made a daughter who learned to be useful instead of celebrated. That's not what I meant to do, but it's what I did. I can't fix it tonight. She looked hurt to admit it and also relieved. But I can stop doing it. I believed her, not because of the words, because of what she didn't try to defend. Okay, I said. Ava cleared her throat. She was good at the online apology, cute and clean, the kind that feels like a product you can add to cart. This wasn't that. This was a room where people knew who she had been and who she had the chance to be now. I thought, she said, picking her way through the sentences like a person crossing a stream on wet stones, that if I shined, it helped everyone. Like the family looked better so we'd be happier. And I sometimes took room because I could. I told myself you didn't mind because you didn't fight me for it. She nodded, more to herself than to me. I'm sorry, that's lazy and mean. I didn't mean to be mean, but I was. It wasn't the most graceful apology I'd ever heard. It was, however, honest enough to land. Thank you, I said. If you want help planning something in the future, ask me, but never again on my day. Got it. Got it, she said. And do you want me to plan something for you, like every year, or will that feel like trying to fix? Ask me each year, I said. Sometimes I'll want it big, sometimes I'll want it small. The point is you'll ask. We had reached a kind of high, soft ledge, not the peak, a plateau where a person can see what's behind them and what might be ahead. I tapped the bar. The bartender lifted the bell we usually used to call servers at the pass and tapped it once, lightly. The guitarist changed to a melody everyone knows the bones of. The kitchen door swung open, and out came a cake that wasn't flashy. It was round and pale and simple, smooth frosting, a ring of small wildflowers around the base. The kind of cake you make for someone you love when you know what they actually like. The candle was singular, one tall, thin light, not for age, for meaning. As it moved toward our table, a few other tables glanced up. Not nosy, curious in that human way that makes a room feel like a neighborhood for half a minute. The servers placed the cake in front of me. They didn't clap. Nobody shouted. The air simply held what it was holding. My mother looked at me. "Do you want us to?" "Yes," I said, "please." They sang. They didn't sing loud. They sang like a prayer you say over soup, simple and honest. My father's voice wobbled. Ava's was thin at first and then steadier. Dylan surprised me. He had a warm tone I had never heard because he never lifted it to be heard. I closed my eyes and listened. I let the sound go into all the places inside me that had gone quiet. I let it fix nothing and still do something important. And then I made a wish. I wished not for them to change, not for make-up parties, not for perfect years to erase the messy ones. I wished for the courage to keep choosing myself even if they fell back into old rhythms. I wished for a life where my birthday didn't matter because it had to, but because it got to. When I blew, the candle flickered and went out, and then it glowed again, a trick wick that refuses to disappear so fast. Ava laughed through a tear. "Of course you did that," she said, shaking her head. "You would." I grinned because I had done it on purpose. I wanted to blow twice. I wanted to insist again, to make my own breath part of the ritual more than once. I blew again. The flame vanished with a soft sigh, and this time it stayed out. The room breathed with me. Relief is a physical thing. It moves the air. "Happy birthday," my father said. He didn't whisper. He said it like he had been saving the words for a long time and was grateful to finally set them down. "Happy birthday," my mother said, and there was a tremble in her that sounded like both joy and grief. "Happy birthday," Dylan said, and he bumped his shoulder to mine like we were kids on a couch. "To many more." Ava leaned in. "Happy birthday," she said and added, "It's your night," like it was a vow. We cut slices. We ate. The cake tasted like lemon and light, like summer and forgiveness, like sugar, sure, but also like the end of a long, quiet fight you didn't realize you'd been losing until someone handed you the bell and let you ring it. While we chewed, I nodded to the server. She placed small envelopes next to each plate, names in my handwriting: Mom, Dad, Ava, Dylan. "Not a bill," I said when my father tensed out of habit. "Letters." They looked at me, I looked back. "Read them at home," I said. "Sleep on them, then call me. The way forward is in there." My mother touched the envelope like it might dissolve. "Okay," she said. "Okay," my father echoed. Dylan tucked his into his jacket pocket. "I'll call you in the morning," he said, "even if you hate mornings." "I do hate mornings," I said. "Call it 10. 11, he bargained. "Fine," I said, smiling. Ava slid hers into her bag and put her hand flat on the table. "Thank you for letting us be here," she said. "You could have told us to leave." "I could have," I said. "I didn't want to." The guitarist played something that sounded like a street you walk down when the weather finally matches your body. The servers cleared gently. The water outside wore the dark like a coat that fit. People don't transform in an hour. Magic exists in kitchens and in feelings, not usually in character arcs. But sometimes, in a room where a person chooses herself out loud, other people look up and realize they can choose better too. We sat as a family not because we were perfect, but because we were trying. For the first time in a long time, that was enough. I woke up to the soft light that comes when a city is still deciding what kind of day it wants to be. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, a pile of messages stacked like plates in a sink. From Naomi, "Proud of you. Eat leftover cake for breakfast or I'm calling the authorities." From my bartender, "You were a master class. We good on inventory. I'll check deliveries by 10. From the server who had written that note last year, "Happy birthday again." This time, not in a whisper. I got up wrapped in quiet. I made coffee the way I like it, slow and warm. The apartment smelled like lemon zest because I'd brought home the extra slices of cake and the flowers in their small vases. Wildflowers, not perfect, alive. At 8:13 a.m., my father called. He never called that early unless something was wrong with the car or the roof. "Dad," I said, voice still rough. "I couldn't sleep," he said, and I could hear his morning sounds, keys, the rustle of a jacket, the low hum of a news station. I wanted to say happy birthday again, properly, and I want to say I'm sorry without making it your job to tell me how to fix it. "Thank you," I said, I meant it. "I've been thinking," he said, the way a man says it when thinking is new and painful and necessary. "About the bill always sliding to you. I made that funny for too long." "It wasn't funny," I said, gentle. "I know," he said. "I'm calling the bank later. I want to put money into an account for you to use for whatever you want for the restaurant that feels celebratory." He paused. "That's not me trying to buy my way out of this. It's me trying to change what I do with my hands." "Okay," I said. "I'll take that. And here's mine. You pick up the check the next 3 family dinners without waiting for anyone to hand it to you. Not with a joke, just do it." "Done," he said. "And if you want to put me to work sometimes, real work, not show, give me a list. I'm better with tasks." "You'll regret that," I said, smiling into my mug. "See you at the restaurant later." "I'll bring flowers," he said. "Not roses, something with a little wild in it feels right." At 11:06, right on time for an 11 a.m. bargain, Dylan called. "Do I get points for punctuality?" he said. "For trying," I said. "How are you?" He sighed, embarrassed, relieved, angry at myself. I kept thinking, Mom will figure it out. And then I became an adult, and that's not how it works. "It's not," I said. "But you did the brave thing. You sent the screenshot. You broke the seal." He was quiet. Should I talk to Mom? Like actually talk, not love you bye. "Yes," I said. "You're good at being funny. Try being stubborn for what matters." "I can do stubborn," he said. "Also, I want to help with that idea you had, forgotten birthdays. I'll host the door. I'll tell everyone where to go. I'll make them feel seen when they walk in." I pictured him there, tall and easy, greeting people like he'd been waiting for them. "You'd be great," I said. "Wear a tie." "Don't push it," he said, and we both laughed. At noon, the bell over the restaurant door rang, and there was my mother, the pale blue planner in her arms like a small, heavy animal. "Do you have a minute?" she asked. "I have several," I said. I led her to a corner table, table 7, quiet and kind. She sat and put the planner on the table between us. She smoothed the cover, then pushed it toward me. "I want you to have this," she said. "Not because I'm proud of what's in it, because I want you to see my mind as it was. I wrote you out. I can't undo that. But I can stop writing like that. Here is proof." I didn't touch it yet. "What did you write this morning?" I asked. She opened her bag and pulled out a smaller notebook. The first page, June 12, and under it Maya's birthday. Call her, ask her what she wants. Do not plan for her. Ask, ask, ask. My breath caught. Not because a notebook changes a person. Because a person who changes the way they keep notes is trying to change the way they live. "I made that story about you crying when you were little into a rule," she said, voice soft. "No singing, no attention. I told myself I was protecting you. I see now I was protecting myself from mess, from noise, from any sign that my plans weren't perfect." She looked at me and didn't look away. "Do you want to sing next year?" "Yes," I said. "Unless I say no, you'll ask." "I'll ask," she said. She blinked hard. "I'll call a therapist," she added quickly, as if she was afraid she'd lose her nerve. "Not to make this your fault. To untie the knots I've been living with, I want to be better at this." "Good," I said. "I'll meet you there sometimes. Not every week, not to fix you, to learn how to be better with each other." She nodded like someone who had been waiting for permission to tell the truth, and finally found the door. We sat for a long moment. People passed the windows. The room held us anyway. "I brought something else," she said. She slid an envelope across the table. Inside were printed invitations, small, tasteful, on thick paper. A simple line, "Candle night at Harbor and Vine." A celebration for anyone whose day was missed. "I made these last night badly," she said, a breath of a laugh. "I don't want to be in charge, I wanted to show you I see you, and I see them." "Thank you," I said. "I'll design the night, you can help set tables." Her mouth tilted. "Deal." An hour later, Ava texted a voice note. Not a typed apology with prettier punctuation than feeling. Her real voice. "I was up all night," she said, words slow like she was chewing them as she spoke. "I wanted to post something epic and I stopped. I realize I've lived so much of my life as a story for other people to watch. I don't want to use your night like that, so I'm sorry. And I'm asking, can I help with the forgotten birthdays thing? Not to be the face, to be hands. I can carry boxes and tie ribbons and pick up cupcakes. I can also shut up. I can learn that part." I smiled. I texted back, "Yes, come early, wear flats." Her reply was a crown emoji and a shoe. At 3, the door opened and Luz walked in, the way a woman walks in when she built the floor herself and knows where it creaks. "Well," she asked, eyes sparkling. I stood and hugged her. "We did it," I said into her shoulder. "You were right, design for the after." She sat and took my hands. "How did it feel?" she asked. "Like I had been holding my breath for years and finally exhaled," I said. "Like I blew out a candle that wanted to stay lit and taught it how to rest." She laughed, delighted. "You turned revenge into something that feeds people," she said. "That's the only kind I've ever seen last." We looked around the room together. Afternoon light, a slow river, chairs tucked under tables straight and ready. "This place is yours," she said. "Now go do something with it." I did. We picked a date, second Thursday of the month, every month with a special focus in June. We called it Candle Night. We put a small note in the window in simple type. "If someone forgot your day, we didn't. Sit with us." I asked the staff to tell anyone they knew who might need it. No hashtags, no noisy campaigns, just the old way, word of mouth, the fastest way truth travels. And I wrote one more letter, to the person who had written me that note on the back of a receipt. I taped it under the host stand, where they would find it when they reached for a pen. To the one who said it when no one else did. "I will never forget your line on the back of that paper. Come to Candle Night. There's a slice with your name on it. With love, M." The first candle night was small and perfect. We dimmed the lights. We put tea lights in clear jars along the window ledge. The guitarist played songs that felt like home without needing to be famous. The staff wore their soft uniforms and their real smiles. We set one long table down the center of the room, made of smaller tables pushed together so you could still see the seams. That mattered to me. We weren't hiding that this was a thing we built piece by piece. We wanted people to know it didn't have to be perfect to be beautiful. Dylan stood at the door with a host's smile I had never fully seen. "Welcome to Candle Night," he said to every single person, and he meant it like an oath. People came shyly at first. A woman in her 70s holding a small coin purse, a teen in a hoodie with chipped black nail polish, a guy in a suit carrying a briefcase like a shield. A couple holding hands too tight, a mom with a stroller, a nurse in scrubs who looked like she hadn't sat down since yesterday. We didn't ask them to share, we asked them to eat. Then, on each plate, we put a folded card with the same words I'd written for my family. "You are invited to notice." And underneath, a line in tiny type, "If you want to be seen tonight, place this card upright. If you want to stay quiet, keep it folded. Both are welcome." Cards went up slowly, like tulips braving cold ground. Not all of them, enough to make the table breathe. Ava floated like a good shadow, quietly replacing water, wiping a drip, tying a ribbon that had come loose. She didn't take photos, not one. When a woman asked for one, she said, "Tonight is about you. I'll take it for you," and she did, careful to frame the person and not herself. My mother sat at the end of the table with a stack of cloth napkins. She folded them into soft squares and set them by the water carafe. Every time someone's eyes filled, she slid one over without being asked. No fanfare. No, "Are you okay?" Just, "Here's a napkin." It was the most loving I had ever seen her be with a stranger. My father came through the kitchen's swinging doors with a plastic bin tucked against his chest, and my chef laughed out loud. "You're not allowed in here," she said, but she let him stay. He carried plates like they were breakable because they were. He wiped the pass with a towel like a person learning to care about the part of the room no one sees. And then the server who had written me that birthday note walked in. He looked around like he wasn't sure if he should have come. I waved him over. "You," I said, tugging him into the light. "Come sit." He sat next to the teen in the hoodie. He told her, "I used to hide in the walk-in fridge when I needed to breathe. It's noisy out there." She nodded. They talked like the same person at 2 different times. We served plates that told quiet stories, not like my family's tasting. Simpler. A slice of olive oil cake with a sugared lemon peel. A bowl of soup that tasted like something your grandmother might have made if your grandmother had had time. A little glass of sparkly water with a cherry at the bottom, just for the joy of it. When the time felt right, not on a schedule, but in that human rhythm you learn if you stand in enough dining rooms, I stood at the end of the table. "We don't need to say our names," I said. "We don't need to say what got skipped or why, but if you want to say, 'It hurt,' and have a room say back, 'We hear you,' this is a good place for that." A woman with silver hair set her card upright. "I turned 60, she said. "My kids sent a text with fireworks. No one came." She smiled and it reached her eyes. "I came here, you served me cake, thank you." A man in the suit cleared his throat. "I got divorced this year. We used to do a thing. No one does the thing now." He looked at his plate. "This is better." The teen lifted her chin. "My mom forgot last year," she said, not angry, just plain. "She was tired, I was mad, I'm still a little mad." She looked at the server. "But this soup is awesome." We laughed the soft laugh that makes rooms feel safe. We didn't sing unless someone asked. When they did, we sang the way my family had learned to: simple, true, tidy with love. At the end, I gave out small pins, tiny gold crowns, like the one on my jacket that first night. "For your drawer," I said, "or your jacket if you feel loud. For the days you forget you're invited to your own life." People hugged. People cried the kind of tears that don't flood, they cleanse. After the last guest left, we stood in the quiet clink and hum that always comes at the end of a good service. My staff leaned against the bar, tired and shining. Naomi wrapped me in a hug that said, "See, this is what you were for." My mother walked over carrying a stack of plates like an offering. "I didn't call the hostess once," she said, half joking, half proud. "Look at me." I smiled. "I see you." She set the plates down. "I'm going to be bad at this sometimes," she said. "Old habits." "I am too," I said. "That's why we made a plan." June rolled around again faster than it ever had. When the calendar hit the second week, my phone lit up with a text from my mother. It read, "Your day is ours to follow. What do you want?" I was in the back office, my ledger open, a pencil behind my ear. I looked at the wall where I had taped my goals that night I first took the keys. I typed, "I want morning by the river. I want croissants from the little place on Pine. I want to be with people who ask me questions and wait for the answers. Dinner at Harbor and Vine, table 12. Lemon cake. Sing, yes, and I want to leave by 10 and sit on my fire escape with Naomi and watch the street." She typed back, "Done," and then, "Thank you for letting us try again." That night they came in quiet. No balloons, no crowns, no big news to steal the air. Ava arrived early. She placed a tiny gold crown pin by my fork. "For the 7-year-old, she said, "and for the CEO." Dylan handed me a bakery box tied with string. "I tried to bake," he said, grimacing. "It's not great, but it's mine." "It's perfect," I said because it was. My father put his card down on the bill without a wink. My mother asked, "Do you want us to sing?" And when I said yes, they did. Stronger this time. Better. They brought small things. A cookbook with my mother's notes in the margins. A jar of lemon curd from Ava that she did not ask me to post. A wristwatch from my father with a tiny inscription on the back, "Your time." After cake, we walked by the river. The air smelled like salt and summer again. The water wore the moon like a necklace. We didn't fix 15 years. We didn't need to. We walked with the knowledge that we could do better. That was enough. When I got home, Naomi was on my fire escape with 2 mugs and a blanket. We dangled our feet. We watched the block live its life. "You did it," she said. "We did it," I said. "Do you feel done?" she asked. I looked at the street, at the people moving through their nights. "I feel started," I said. Candle night grew, not big, not loud, just steady. We never advertised beyond the note in the window. People found us anyway. Word travels when it's carrying something that matters. Once a brand reached out to partner. They wanted banners and hashtags and an influencer with a ring light. I said no. Candle night was a promise, not a product. Ava rolled her eyes. "Good," she said. "I'll tell them to partner with my cat's birthday. He likes hashtags." We built a small wall by the bar, Polaroids of cakes and smiles, first names only, no dates except the month. Underneath, a thin line in gold paint, "We see you." On the anniversary of the night, I set my family's table. Luz came by again. We stood under the chandelier and watched the way the room held joy like a bowl. "You cooked something," she said, proud and soft. "I learned to feed myself," I said, and I left the door open. She squeezed my hand. "That's the kind of revenge the world needs," she said. "The kind that writes a better recipe." We laughed, we worked, we lived. There is a kind of revenge that breaks things. It's loud for a night and quiet forever after because there's nothing left to say. And there is the kind I chose. I didn't burn the room down. I bought the lights. I invited the people who taught me to be small and gave them a front row seat to me taking up space. I set a table that fed truth. If you're listening to this and you've been the easy one, the responsible one, the low maintenance, one who somehow always cleans up and never gets the candle, I'm talking to you. You are allowed to ask for what you want without apologizing for wanting it. You are allowed to say, "Tonight is mine." You are allowed to put your name at the center of the table you've been setting for everyone else. People will call it selfish. People who benefited from your silence always do. Don't let that name stick. Self-respect is not selfish. Boundaries are not walls, they're doors that open and close on purpose. If you have a family like mine, good in so many ways and clumsy in others, give them a chance to change. Not infinite chances, real ones, with proof, with plans, with clear lines, design for the after. What do you want the morning to feel like? Aim there. If you're the one who has been doing the forgetting, take a breath. Look at the planner you keep in your head. Whose names are written big, whose are written small, who got erased. Be brave enough to put them back in ink. Be braver still and ask them what they want before you pick up the pen. Ask again, and listen like it's a job. If you're running a place like mine, a home or a restaurant or a friend group, remember this. People come to tables for more than food. They come to be seen. They come to be remembered. The way you say their name can be the difference between a candle that blows out and a candle that won't quit. Hear what I learned. Revenge doesn't have to be destruction. It can be design. It can be a night that exposes what hurt and offers a way forward. Justice can be gentle. It can sound like, "Do you want us to sing?" It can look like a planner with a new first page. Love without listening feels like control. Love with listening feels like air. You do not need permission to sit at the center of your own life. When you've been forgotten, you can become the person who remembers. For yourself, for others. Sometimes the best payback is a tradition. A soft thing that keeps showing up long after the speech is over. On my birthday now, my phone buzzes with half the city's candles in my pocket. Not for me to carry as a weight, as a light I can borrow when mine flickers. And I think of the girl with glue on her fingers and a paper crown a little too big for her head. I think of the way she sat on the back steps, eating a cupcake by herself, while the sun went down and the yard smelled like summer and hope. I think of how long she waited. If I could go back to her, I'd sit beside her and say, "We won't wait forever. When they forget, we'll remember. When they take the night, we'll buy the room. We'll still invite them. We'll teach them how to sing. And when the candle tries to come back to life, we'll blow again, as many times as it takes. I'm Maya. This was my table. Thank you for sitting with me. If this story reached you, if you've ever felt like the easy one who disappeared, share this with someone who needs it. And hey, if you're here at the end, you know what to do. Smash that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Tell me your month. Tell me your cake. Tell me what song you want. I'll write it down. I promise I won't forget.